At Christmas dinner, my mother raised her glass and said, "Give me back the money I wasted raising you." I pulled out my phone, transferred her $1, and said, "Now give me back the 10 years I spent paying your bills." My sister laughed and added, "Don't bring your family again. They're low class and beneath me." I looked at her, took a sip of wine, and said, "Here's to my sister, who now has a rich boyfriend." Then I stood up. "By the way, I'm done paying for your luxuries." That night, I froze their accounts, revoked every card, and blocked them all. It was supposed to be a normal Christmas dinner. The kind where someone burns the rolls, the dog steals a slice of ham off the table, and everyone pretends for a few hours that we're one big happy family. But this year, the only thing burning was my patience. I was halfway through my wine when my mother stood up, glass in hand, and cleared her throat. "To family," she said, with that tight-lipped smile she wore whenever she was about to say something cruel and call it tradition. "And to the children we raise, even if they grow up ungrateful. Give me back the money I wasted raising you." The room went silent. Forks hovered mid-air. My aunt looked like she was about to choke on her mashed potatoes. And my brother Greg, always quick to change the subject, suddenly found his cranberry sauce extremely interesting. I didn't blink. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and transferred her $1. Then I raised my glass. "Done," I said. "Now give me back the 10 years I spent paying your bills." The gasp from the table was so loud it could have been scripted. But I wasn't done. Across the table, my sister rolled her eyes and scoffed. "God, can you not bring your family drama here?" she sneered, tossing her perfectly curled hair over one shoulder. "They're low class and beneath me." I looked her dead in the eyes. Took a slow sip of wine. "Here's to my sister," I said, "who now has a rich boyfriend and suddenly thinks that makes her royalty." Then I stood up. "Oh, and by the way, I'm done paying for your luxuries. No more credit cards, no more rent, no more secret bank transfers because you forgot your PIN. Merry Christmas." And with that, I walked out. That night, I froze their accounts, revoked every card I'd ever co-signed, and blocked every number. I used to believe that if you gave enough, people would eventually stop asking. That's what I told myself the first time I paid off my mother's credit card debt just to help her breathe. I was 24. She'd called me sobbing, saying she couldn't sleep, that collectors were calling nonstop. I was working 2 jobs at the time, barely affording my own rent, but I wired her $2,000 without hesitation. She didn't say thank you. She said, "About time you stepped up as a man." That should have been my wake-up call. Instead, it became the start of a pattern. I paid for the new fridge when theirs broke. I paid for the plumbing emergency, for the car registration, for Greg's tuition when he wasn't ready to get a job but wanted to explore himself. And when he dropped out 3 semesters later, guess who paid his rent while he figured things out? Yeah, me. I bought my sister her first car. Not because I wanted to, but because our mother called me crying that she couldn't let Rachel walk around like a loser. When I suggested Rachel get a job, my mother's voice turned cold. "She's not like you. She deserves better." Deserves better. That line stuck in my throat like a fishbone for years. Because apparently, I deserved to live in a shoebox apartment, eat canned beans, and duct tape my shoes back together. Every month, I'd check my own bank balance and then send hundreds, sometimes thousands, just to keep my family's lights on. They told me it was just temporary. For 10 years, I paid for my sister's fake business venture, a vegan bakery she never opened. I funded her emergency girls trip when she had a mental breakdown over her breakup. That emergency happened to include beachfront resorts and champagne brunches in Miami. She posted the whole thing on Instagram, tagging it #healing. Meanwhile, I was skipping meals to make my own mortgage payment. But I didn't say anything. I played along. I told myself this was what loyalty looked like, what love was supposed to mean. Until that summer. That was when I found out Mom had told everyone at her book club that I was paying her back for raising me. Not helping. Not supporting. Paying her back like a debt. As if the food and rent she provided during my childhood was some business transaction I had defaulted on. And the kicker? She said it with pride. She bragged about it. "My son gives me $500 a month because he knows what I sacrificed for him." No mention of the fact that she drained my savings for her gambling problem in 2019. No mention of the emergency $7,000 I wired her when she accidentally co-signed a car loan for some boyfriend who vanished. I was being erased in real time, turned into a wallet, a walking, talking ATM whose only role was to fund their delusions and bad decisions. And my sister? She never even looked up when I entered a room. But she sure knew how to text when her rent was late or she needed help with her networking retreat. Once she messaged me, "Can you cover my lashes appointment? I'm seeing Derek's parents this weekend. Gotta impress." I paid for that too. Until one day, I checked my credit report and saw that someone had opened a Macy's card, a travel rewards account, and 2 payday loans under my name. The email linked to those accounts? Rachel's. My sister had stolen my identity. My blood pressure dropped. I froze. I called her. She picked up mid-laugh. "Hey, can I call you back? I'm at brunch." "Did you open 3 lines of credit under my name?" Silence. Then, "Oh my God, calm down. I just needed a little boost for my Europe trip. You have good credit." I didn't think you'd notice. Didn't think I'd notice. That was the moment something snapped in me. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about what they had taken and what I had allowed. My dignity, my peace, my self-respect. And that was when I made the plan. Christmas would be the last time they ever saw the version of me that paid, tolerated, and forgave. I was done. The moment I walked into that Christmas dinner, I already knew how it would end. I wasn't there to celebrate. I was there to bury a decade of self-erasure. The dining room looked the same as always. White tablecloth, fake centerpiece from Walmart pretending to be classy, and my mother's smug voice floating from the kitchen as she instructed Rachel how to garnish the ham. Like Martha Stewart, not a peasant. Greg was already at the table, scrolling his phone, dressed like he was auditioning for a beer commercial. And there was my sister, eyelash extensions, fake Chanel earrings, and the phone I'd paid for lighting up with texts from her rich boyfriend, who, rumor had it, was actually just some club promoter with debt bigger than his ego. I sat down quietly. Let them have their moment. Let them pretend I was still the idiot they could emotionally invoice every time life didn't go their way. Wine was poured. Plates passed. Laughter faked. Then my mother raised her glass. "To family," she said, eyes twinkling. "And to the money we wasted raising them." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I didn't flinch. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and transferred her exactly $1. "I just reimbursed you for your greatest financial regret," I said, raising my glass in return. "Now, I'd like a refund for the 10 years I spent paying your bills, covering your lies, and cleaning up your messes." Silence. A different kind of silence. Greg looked up, blinking like someone had unplugged his brain. Rachel let out a scoff. "Oh God, here we go," she muttered. "Is this about your martyr complex again? Always the victim, huh?" I turned to her, slowly. "Actually," I said, calm as steel, "this is about you using my social security number to open lines of credit. You know, fraud." Her wine glass froze midair. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. I've already filed the police report. I have the email trail. I have screenshots. You used my identity to fund your luxury skincare and business retreats. That's a felony." My mother gasped, finally looking up from her plate. "That's absurd." "No," I said. "What's absurd is that I've been paying for this circus long enough." I stood up and pulled a small envelope from my jacket. "You might want to read this, Mom. It's the official notice that I've revoked my power of attorney over your accounts." "Which means," I turned toward Rachel, "your Venmo cards, canceled. Your automatic rent transfers, gone. Your emergency dental bill last month, paid with my card. Guess what? Disputed and reversed." She jumped to her feet. "You're overreacting. You can't just cut us off." "I can. And I did. Last night. Your accounts are frozen. Your cards are dead. And Greg." I looked at him as he opened his banking app in panic. "How's that iPhone you got last month? Still working?" He blinked rapidly. "Dude, my phone's not. Wait, my payment method says declined. That's because it was on my account. And guess what? Welcome to real life. You might have to pay your own Netflix this month." My mother stood now, voice rising. "You think this is funny? Humiliating us on Christmas? You humiliated yourselves?" I snapped. "I gave everything. You took everything. And the second I hesitated, I became a burden. A problem. The low-class disappointment." Rachel stepped forward. "I have a rich boyfriend now. I don't need your money." I smiled. "Then you'll be fine. In fact," I pulled out my phone again. "Let's toast to Rachel, who finally found someone else to leech off." She lunged at me, but Greg held her back, his phone still in hand, eyes wide in disbelief. "Dude, you canceled everything? All of it? Including Mom's power over my financial accounts? Including the cosign lease for your music studio? Including every card tied to my name? Your luxuries were always mine. Not anymore. My mother's voice trembled. You wouldn't do this to family. You did, I said. The moment you started treating me like a credit card with legs. Then I reached into my coat and placed a small box on the table. Inside was a copy of the $67,000 in expenses I had paid for this family since I turned 25. Categorized. Itemized. Receipts included. Consider this your final bill. Don't worry, I won't be sending it to collections. Then I turned and walked out the door. That night, I sat in my apartment, wine in hand, as the text poured in. First angry, then desperate, then manipulative. You betrayed us. You're overreacting. You'll regret this. I blocked them all. Every number, every email, every attempt to crawl back into the world they drained dry. That night, for the first time in a decade, I slept. Really slept. Because for once, I wasn't someone's pushover. I was free. You think that after blowing up your entire family over Christmas dinner, there'd be regret, shame, maybe a sleepless night or two, wondering if you went too far. No. I woke up the next morning in my own bed, in my own apartment, with 0 calls to return and no one demanding I send a quick transfer for Rachel's spa day or Greg's car insurance or mom's leaking roof. It was quiet. Not the kind of silence that suffocates. The kind that heals. And for the first time in years, my shoulders didn't feel like they were carrying a 200-pound emotional mortgage. That day, I went for a walk. Just me, the cold air, and the sweet realization that I didn't owe anyone a single thing anymore. My phone buzzed. A new number. I didn't answer. Later, I checked the voicemail. It was Rachel, screaming, "You're a monster. Do you know what you've done to us?" Mom's crying nonstop. Greg had to borrow money from his girlfriend, and I had to cancel my last fill. You selfish. I laughed. Out loud. I hadn't laughed like that in years. Later that day, I got an email from a collections agency addressed to Rachel, forwarded to my old account by mistake. Apparently, one of the cards she'd opened under my name had bounced spectacularly. Overdraft fees, interest, penalties, all stacking up like a financial avalanche. They were looking for me. Too bad she wasn't me anymore. I sent them the fraud report, police case number, and my attorney's info. Then I blocked the agency. Blocked her new number too. Clean slate. In the following weeks, the fallout hit them like a freight train. Greg had to move back in with Mom. His lease got terminated after the landlord found out his guarantor, me, had revoked financial responsibility. He tried to get a job, lasted 3 days, then posted on Instagram about toxic work environments and mental health days. Mom pawned off some jewelry. I know because one of her church friends DM'd me on Facebook and said, "I just saw your mother selling her pearl bracelet outside the community center. Is she okay?" I wrote back, "She's finally learning what budgeting feels like." That felt good. And Rachel? Her rich boyfriend bailed. Apparently, she tried using his card for a hotel room in Miami after hers declined. He got the fraud alert and dumped her on the spot. She messaged me from a new burner account a week later. "Just tell me why," she wrote. "Why now?" I didn't respond. Instead, I donated $100 to a women's shelter under her name. Let her contribute something useful for once. But the real shift wasn't them crumbling. It was me rising. 2 weeks after the Christmas breakup, I finally applied for that job I'd been afraid to take because I was too tied down supporting my family. A consulting role out in Seattle, triple the salary, remote flexibility, real growth. I got it. Within a month, I moved across the country. New city, new place. No trace of them. I bought a 1-bedroom overlooking the bay. Decorated it with the kind of stuff my mother used to call a waste of money, art, books, a leather couch that no one else would sit on except me. It smelled like freedom. I joined a gym. Took a photography class. Started sleeping 8 hours a night for the first time in a decade. I met people who liked me for me. Not for what I could give. Not for my bank account. Not because I filled some hole in their chaotic life. And that's when it really hit me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was done. Because when you spend your life trying to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you lose yourself. And I had lost myself in overdraft notices, phone transfers, emergency calls, and guilt. Now I had space. I got a message from Greg about a month after I moved. A simple one. I get it now. No begging. No accusations. Just 5 words. I didn't reply, but I left it unread. Just so he'd know I saw it. Later that week, I got a handwritten letter from my aunt. One of the few in the family who never asked me for a cent. "I don't know what happened," she wrote, but I heard your side. And I want to say, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you. She ended it with, sometimes it takes a collapse that allowed rebuilding. I framed that letter, put it above my desk, next to a photo I took from my new apartment, the sunrise over the bay. No noise, no drama, no debt, just light. 6 months. That's how long it's been since I slid my phone across the table, transferred $1 to my mother's account, and said those words out loud. Now give me back the 10 years I spent paying your bills. There was no explosion, no dishes breaking, no dramatic storming out, just the sound of a family realizing their free ride was over. And my own heartbeat calm, steady for the first time in years. That $1 was more than a transaction. It was liberation. It was the receipt that said, debt closed. Access revoked. Game over. Since then, I haven't heard a word from them. Not directly. I saw one of Rachel's Instagram stories a week later, a blurry selfie in a bathroom, captioned, "Some people are only loyal until the money stops." Greg posted a vague tweet, "Can't trust anyone these days. Even blood will switch on you." And my mother? She changed her WhatsApp status to, "Ungrateful children are a curse from God." Good. Let them rage. Let them sit with the silence I finally gave them. Because me? I've never been better. The first week without them felt surreal. My phone was quiet. My accounts untouched. My name no longer attached to their rent, their utilities, their fake emergencies. At first, I kept checking, thinking maybe something had gone wrong. But nothing had. Nothing was missing. Except the noise. Except the bleeding. Except the constant anxiety that had become part of my bloodstream. So I sat with the silence. And slowly, I started to heal. I took a job offer I delayed for years, because Mom needs me nearby, because Rachel's not stable, because Greg's trying to start something. The offer was still there. The salary was higher now. I said yes. Moved to a city where no one knew my name, no one knew my bank balance, no one saw me as a walking lifeline. I bought a small apartment, white walls, tall windows, no ghosts. I furnished it with my money. No secondhand couch. No borrowed dishes. Just me, my taste, my space. And for the first time in years, I woke up not dreading the day. No calls from Mom at 6 a.m. asking if I could cover the gas bill. No, "Can you Venmo me $80 real quick?" from Rachel, right after she posted a selfie from a salon. No Greg saying, "Bro, I'm in a tight spot," 3 days after I paid his internet. Just quiet. And freedom. People who've never been used don't understand the euphoria of not being needed. I used to think I wanted to be needed. That being the responsible one meant I was doing something noble. But now I know what they needed wasn't love. It was access. To my time. My money. My guilt. They called it family. It was dependency, disguised as loyalty. And I fed it for too long. Until I stopped. Until I cut all ties. Do I miss them? No. I miss the idea of them. The fantasy version. The one where Mom wasn't passive-aggressive and greedy. Where Rachel was kind and grateful. Where Greg pulled his own weight and didn't treat life like a party I was supposed to pay for. But that family never existed. And the real one? The one that called me selfish the moment I said, no? I don't miss them. I don't even think about them most days. And when I do, it's with the kind of clarity you get when the fever breaks. Because that's what it was, a sickness. A sickness I was raised to believe was love. Now, I know better. Now, I protect myself like no one ever protected me. Sometimes, I still look at that transaction. That $1. That final refund. I framed it. Put it above my desk, next to a photo of the bay outside my window. It reminds me. You don't have to burn forever just because your family enjoys the warmth. You don't have to bankrupt yourself emotionally, financially, spiritually, for people who will never say thank you. And you don't have to stay just because they share your last name. I gave them a decade. They gave me blame, manipulation, and silence when I needed care. I gave them everything. Now, I give them nothing. Not even the courtesy of a second chance. Because sometimes closure isn't a hug. Sometimes closure is $1. And a locked door that never opens again.